The Senate Commerce Committee has launched an investigation into whether Facebook suppressed conservative news on its trending topics section. The controversy was first reported in an article by tech news site Gizmodo that reported Facebook workers would artificially inject selected stories into the trending news module to replace conservative ones. Facebook has directly denied the accusations. Nick Thompson, editor of the NewYorker.com and CBS News contributor, is here to talk about this. So, Nick, Facebook has released a statement. First of all, we want to let people know about this. And the statement says, quote, "We take allegations of bias very seriously. There are rigorous guidelines in place for the review team to ensure consistency and neutrality. And these guidelines do not permit the suppression of political perspectives." All right, so I know you have some new information on this. You've been talking to people about this story.
Well, I've been trying to report and trying to figure out what's been going on. So it's a very complicated story, because the most important thing that Facebook does is it has its news feed with its algorithm, which has been programmed by millions of people or billions of lines or whatever. So that is not what's questioned. What's at question is the small module on the Facebook page, which is the trending stories thing, and it's an important thing. But it's controlled by a group of about 10 to 15, 20 humans, and what they do is the algorithm will pop up things that say, hey, this is going on, people are talking about this, is a trending story. And the job of those humans is to either veto something or to let it run, right? So every day at about 12:30, the word lunch will pop into that, right? Because people are talking about their lunch. So the humans who work for Facebook have to delete the word lunch, because that's not a trending story, right? But they also have a lot of leeway as individuals to say, oh, this story is real, this story is not real. So if Holocaust didn't happen, is something that is, people are talking about in their Facebook feeds, that will pop up and somebody will cross it off and say, let's not put that as a trending story. So the allegation is that among this team were a bunch of liberals who knocked out a lot of conservative news. So we don't know. There will be an investigation, it seems like, by the Senate. It will determine whether that happened. My guess is that there was certainly not an established policy. My informed guess is there was certainly not established policy. In fact, Facebook desperately would not want this to happen. On the other hand, the people who are likely to go work there are young people in Silicon Valley or in New York who are probably liberals, and even if they're trying hard not to show that bias, you can imagine that they would have a certain bias towards certain stories or against certain stories. And there could have been someone who, acting on their own behalf, knocked out a few stories. So my guess is that there's probably a little something here, and it's vastly, 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 vastly less than what people actually think.
You think more institutional rather than an actual direct sort of conscious?
I don't think there's a direct, my strong guess is there was no direct conscious decision by anybody to knock out conservative news. And in fact, I'm sure that the people at Facebook care desperately that the algorithm not have any perception that it's biased, because then suddenly you'd lose all of your trust in Facebook. On the other hand, the people who work there are probably pretty liberal, right? They're young, diverse people from around, like major metropolitan areas who tend to have liberal views, and that probably does seep into what they view as an accurate story or not an accurate story.
All right. So the chair of the Senate Commerce Committee, Republican John Thune of South Dakota, appeared on Fox News this afternoon to address the issue. He sent a letter, and he basically he wants Facebook to, within 2 weeks, have details on the, quote, rigorous guidelines that Facebook says that it has in place to prevent the suppression of political perspectives. Yeah. So, this is another level now where you have a lawmaker asking for this specific nature in which Facebook conducts this. How is it that they carry out? What are the procedures here? Yeah. Because when you talk about a news source, essentially what it sounds like the system is there are gatekeepers, a very small group of gatekeepers deciding what is and is not newsworthy for the public to consume.
Well, not quite. There's a small group of gatekeepers who are very young, who aren't trained in, the rules and rigors of journalism or unbiased reporting. But they're not deciding. They're just deciding what goes in this little box of trending box, stories, right? It's not like.
But people will see that.
People will see that. It's important. Some people will click on it. I mean, what this is getting confused with is something that would be really important, right? There's social scientists who have studied the way Facebook works, and if Facebook jiggered its core algorithm, and it jiggered its core algorithm to suppress conservative news or to suppress liberal news, though most of the people who work at Facebook are liberals, it would do it to suppress conservative views. If it did that, it could have a huge influence on the election. That's the core algorithm, though. That's not this trending module, and that's not what's being alleged. So there's a huge fear that Facebook, by messing with the underlying architecture at an algorithmic sense with their computer scientists doing this or doing that, could have a real impact on the American election and the way American politics work. but that would be a different thing. But that's the context. That's why everybody is getting so riled up about this.
Because if it's possible for it to happen in this trending section, what's to say that there couldn't be, perhaps? That's the question that some people are raising.
Right, or maybe in fact it is happening in the algorithm. We don't know that.
Know.
And like in this investigation into the little trending box, we'll figure out that the whole algorithm is rigged, and oh my God. And that would be a real problem. That would be a real story, and that would deserve a Senate investigation, because like Facebook is essentially the internet now. They've taken the whole internet and they've stuffed it inside of Facebook. So if they're biased against conservatives, then, you know, that's a problem.
I mean, is there a precedent for this, Nick? I mean, is this something that we have seen with other social media companies? Have any other social media companies been accused of anything similar to this?
Sure. I mean, Google gets accused of this all the time. I mean, it's really important. I mean, Google and Facebook are the only two that matter in this sense. I mean, you know, that's where everybody gets their news. They're the two central starting points for the internet and for everybody. And what these companies need to do, I mean, this is actually an important moment for Facebook and Google, and they need to say, okay, well, wait. We need to hire a bunch of really experienced journalists, or people who are really care about civic life and fair conversation. And we need to hire people who are totally trusted to oversee our core standards and the way the algorithm works and the way news is portrayed. And we need to take seriously this responsibility we have for American life. We need to have an ombudsman. We need to have somebody who looks at every single change, and every single change is run by him. And they haven't done that because they're Silicon Valley scrappy startups, and they want to hire new engineers, and they got to move fast and break things, and you know, publish before it's ready, and all of this, right? And that's not part of their culture. But now that they control the internet and they're the layer over which we all get our news, they need to do that. So this is an important moment for Google and Facebook to take all of this stuff more seriously.
All right, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about it.